Okay, let's just dive right in. Today, we're going through an explainer that completely flips the script on everything we thought we knew about dating, dependency, and love, all thanks to evolutionary biology. So if you've ever felt completely, irrational in a relationship, or maybe you've wondered why a partner suddenly pushes you away just when things are getting incredibly good, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to unpack the truly groundbreaking science of adult attachment, and trust me, it's going to explain so much about your past relationships.
Here is our game plan. We'll start with the relationship puzzle, debunk the myth of codependency, define the 3 attachment styles, and finally, wrap up with a highly practical toolkit for decoding your partner.
All right, part 1, the relationship puzzle. Why we act the way we do. Seriously, why is it that incredibly smart, successful people can act completely helpless when it comes to love? Think about Tamra for a second. She's this brilliant, highly resilient professional. But the minute she started dating this unpredictable guy named Greg, she was practically vibrating with anxiety. She was checking her phone every 3 seconds, losing sleep, and honestly, almost sabotaging her career. Or take reality TV competitors Karen and Tim. Fiercely capable team, right? But they lost a globally televised race for one simple reason. Karen desperately needed to hold Tim's hand under immense stress, and Tim, who fiercely valued his independence and felt smothered, hesitated. And that tiny hesitation, it cost them everything. So what is actually going on here? That agonizing inner monologue right there? I know that once again I'll manage to turn all my fears into a self-fulfilling prophecy. It perfectly captures that feeling of absolute helplessness. It's that overwhelming sense that you're sabotaging yourself, but you physically cannot stop it. But here is the massive, game-changing paradigm shift. Science tells us this is not a personality flaw. It's not a weakness, and you aren't just being crazy. It is literally your biology. We are wired this way for survival.
Which brings us to part 2, the myth of codependency, shattering societal expectations.
Society is constantly hammering this idea into our heads that we have to be entirely self-sufficient to be healthy. You know the cliche, right? You have to be happy alone before you can be happy with someone else. We have this absolute obsession with fierce independence. But the biological truth? It is vastly different. The reality is that once we become attached, we actually form a single physiological unit with our partner. You are literally no longer 2 completely separate entities navigating the world. Your breathing, your heart rates, your hormones, they physically regulate one another. You become chemically intertwined.
And this biological connection was brilliantly proven in an MRI study by Dr. James Cohn. He showed that physical proximity to a supportive spouse literally shuts down the brain's stress response. Get this. When married women were told they were about to receive a mild electric shock while alone, their hypothalamus, that's the brain's main stress center, lit up like a Christmas tree. Now, holding a stranger's hand, that reduced the anxiety just a little bit. But look at what happens when they held their husband's hand. The stress response became barely detectable. Their brains essentially registered 0 threat simply because they were in physical contact with their partner.
So this leads us to a really crucial, kind of mind-bending concept, the dependency paradox. The more effectively dependent people are on one another, the more independent and daring they actually become. I know, it sounds completely backward at first. We're always taught that depending on someone makes us weak, but think of it like a safety net for a trapeze artist. Knowing that net is firmly in place doesn't make them cower on the platform in fear, right? It actually gives them the courage to fly out there and try a triple backflip. When your emotional needs are fully met, you actually stop worrying about the relationship and you turn your attention outward to take on the world.
This solid foundation is what we call a secure base. It's a concept rooted in a famous child psychology experiment called the strange situation test, where toddlers would explore a new room but keep looking back to make sure their moms were still sitting in the corner. As adults, a secure base is simply the reliable presence of an attachment figure that allows us to confidently explore, take risks, and smash our goals. Think back to Karen and Tim for a second. If Tim had just instinctively acted as a secure base and grabbed Karen's hand right away to regulate her stress, they probably would have won that race. But what exactly happens when that secure base is threatened? Well, we exhibit what's called protest behavior. This is a frantic, evolutionary reaction designed to reestablish contact with our attachment figure. And it perfectly explains why when a partner suddenly pulls away, you might rapid-fire double-text them, try to make them deliberately jealous, or even pick an entirely illogical fight just to get their attention. Your brain literally thinks you are in prehistoric danger of being abandoned and eaten by a predator. It is a literal alarm bell going off in your nervous system, demanding connection.
All right, part 3. The 3 attachment styles. Our evolutionary wiring. Let's see how all of this builds into 3 distinct styles.
Based on decades of research, here is how the adult population actually breaks down. Just over half of the population is secure, a quarter is avoidant, 20% are anxious, and a tiny fraction, about 3 to 5%, are disorganized. Now, these aren't just quirky personality traits, they are deeply ingrained biological strategies for handling intimacy. And figuring out where you and your partner fall in this mix, it is absolutely the cheat code to relationships.
Let's look at the secure attachment style first. Secure individuals naturally embrace intimacy. They don't play games, they effectively communicate their needs, and they easily act as that reliable, secure base for their partners. For them, closeness is absolutely not a threat to their freedom. It's just a warm, reliable given in their lives. They expect their partners to be loving, and they freely offer that love right back without second-guessing every little interaction.
Next up, the anxious attachment style. Folks in this category have a massive capacity for closeness. They deeply crave intimacy and connection. However, their attachment system is highly sensitive. They are hyper-focused on relationship dynamics and incredibly alert to even the tiniest perceived threats of rejection. This means they constantly seek reassurance of their partner's love. To an anxiously attached person, a delayed text message doesn't just mean their partner's busy at work, it feels like the beginning of a breakup.
And finally, the avoidant attachment style. Now, there's a huge misconception that these folks simply don't care. But avoidant individuals absolutely still have attachment needs. It's wired into their biology just like the rest of us. But they actively suppress them. They falsely equate intimacy with a loss of independence, so their go-to defense mechanism is to actively push partners away when things get a bit too close, just to protect their autonomy. Basically, the closer you get, the louder their internal alarm bells ring, telling them to run.
Okay, moving to part 4, decoding your partner, the practical toolkit. We know the science now, so how do we actually apply this in the wild to save ourselves from a dating disaster? Looking at this breakdown, you can quickly categorize past or current partners by observing just 2 key things: their baseline view of intimacy and how they react when the relationship hits a bump. It is wildly consistent. A secure person welcomes closeness and actively seeks compromise during conflict. An anxious person craves merging with their partner and acts out with that frantic protest behavior we talked about. An avoidant person, on the other hand, feels suffocated by closeness and will actively distance themselves or even explode in anger to create space during a fight.
So, to decode a date style early on, you really just want to walk through these golden rules step by step. Step 1. Do they fundamentally seek closeness, or do they try to minimize it? If you're keeping you at arm's length, you're probably dealing with an avoidant style. Step 2. Are they highly sensitive to rejection? If the answer is yes, that strongly points to anxious. And finally, step 3. Notice exactly how they react when you actually sit down to talk about your feelings. Honestly, that reaction to your feelings, it's the ultimate litmus test. When you express your needs clearly and directly, a secure partner is going to listen and try to accommodate you because they genuinely want you to be happy. An avoidant partner, though, will likely go straight on the defense. They might call you needy, tell you you're being way too sensitive, or demand that you stop analyzing everything. How they respond to your vulnerability gives away their entire biological playbook in an instant.
And remember, you've got to look at the whole picture by watching out for these key red flags early on. A lot of the time, what a partner neglects to do, like refusing to introduce you to their friends, ignoring your request to plan ahead, or withholding physical affection, that speaks absolute volumes about their avoidance. Pay special attention to whether they devalue their past partners, even if they do it jokingly, but calling them crazy or obsessed. That is a classic textbook distancing strategy used by the avoidant style to stay emotionally detached. I love this single quote because it perfectly distills everything we've uncovered in this explainer. True independence is actually fueled by finding a partner who fully embraces your dependency. You really don't have to conquer the world entirely alone. You just have to find a secure base who regulates your stress so you can thrive. It is literally a biological superpower just waiting to be unlocked.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on as you think about your own relationship choices moving forward. Are you traveling the road to happiness with the right person to depend on? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating science with me. I really hope this framework helps you build stronger, much more secure connections in your own life.